I'm Kate Noble. I'm here at Shine Yoga in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's March 2020. So I am in partial quarantine. Not that I'm sick or have any symptoms, but that our gyms and fitness centers and yoga centers have been closed down. So I'm working to bring some offerings to the wide variety of students that I teach each week. And rather than creating a single class for each of the classes that I normally teach, I came up with this idea to work on the energy that I'm kind of thinking of for each class, and I'm going to use a zodiac. So even though Taurus isn't the first sign of the zodiac, I'm going to start with this one. It happens to be my sun sign, so I know a little bit about it. And this class is just going to be very gentle, sweet. It has a big element of nurturing your body, your heart, and your mind. This is a rough time for a lot of us. So it's good to have some practices where we can just kind of take a step back and disengage from any of the things that are causing us stress and worry. So this class will probably end up being 20-30 minutes. We'll see at the end. And it will be a great first thing in the morning practice or an evening practice. I kind of use this as a basic warm-up for myself, and then I have a few other things added in to make it a complete class in its own. So for sure, my prenatal students can use this one as well, and perinatal as well. So I hope you'll enjoy. We're gonna begin seated, and you can sit on the ground, you can sit in a chair, you could stand up if you don't wanna take the time to sit down. But we'll close our eyes now. Oh, one more thing, I have to say the disclaimer, I'm not used to videoing, so I just wanna remind you that this is not medical advice. If anything feels uncomfortable or it hurts, you should stop doing it. If you lose your breath, feel dizzy, lightheaded, stop. And then if those symptoms persist, then get some medical advice. All right, so now that we've taken care of that business, let's center in. You can close your eyes now. Feel into your body and allow yourself to have a moment where you feel your breath moving in and out of your body. As we take these observations in yoga practice, we want to make sure that we're doing them without judgment. So it really is just about a state of curiosity, gathering information. How are things going inside? Notice whether you feel breath in your chest predominantly or your belly. And then I'm going to ask you to try to breathe deeper into your belly. So when you breathe in, your belly puffs. And when you breathe out, it relaxes back in a little bit. A couple more times like that. Breathing into belly. And breathing out, relaxing. And then see if you can have a sense of breathing into your belly and then letting that kind of breath move in the wave-like motion all the way up to the crown of your head. I say that, it makes me laugh a little because there used to be a commercial of that goose, he would say, breathing in wave-like motion, teaching class. Maybe you remember that. So in all seriousness, that breathing in a wave-like motion is very calming and grounding for the nervous system, as well as then becomes energizing as it moves up into your chest and into the mind. We'll just take a couple more here. See if you can feel into your physical body now. Allow yourself to be aware of any tension that you might feel, tightness. And just see if you can soften a little bit so that we are moving into this state of greater sensitivity. And as we're moving sensitively, we can really take much better care of ourselves. And that's true in relationship as well, being sensitive to those people and things that we're in relationship with, so we can find a sense of working in harmony. Traditionally, I Om at the beginning of practice. I'm going to do that here. Feel free to do that at home with me if you like. Chanting Om, the Om is like a sonic symbol of our interconnectedness. It's a reminder that we're all in this big game of life together. It also helps clear your throat and lungs, so it helps you breathe easier for practice. So I like to breathe out through the nose first, and then back in. Returning to your breath, full breath in, Complete breath out. Let your eyes gently open. And then as we move through the practice, really keep coming back to this idea of checking in with your breath. So if you're breathing shallowly, you're missing a big part of the yoga practice. The breath is an essential element. It's really gonna help you move energy through your body, helps keep you clear, it helps keep your energy balanced. So keep checking in with your breath. I also wanna say, I am not the kind of teacher who practices with my class. So this is new for me. Normally I'm standing at the front of the room, watching people, teaching to what I see, kind of correcting their alignment. So bear with me if you've noticed any awkwardness in this practice, and hopefully you can hear me well. Do my best to make sure you can hear me well. All right, so we're gonna start moving, and before we do that, one more thing I wanna say. I have pre-recorded a class that is called something like Everyday Basics for Everybody, something like that, and it has a chair yoga practice in it. So if there's elements in this practice that feel still too challenging for you, that one is one step more gentle, and you can do the whole thing in the chair so that you're not straining your knees on hands and knees, things like that. I also want to show you another option. So most of us are going to come to all fours, hands and knees. But if that bothers your knees or your wrists, you can just come to a wall or put your hands on the back of a chair. And in a moment, we're going to do cat-cow, where we're moving the pelvis. You can do this. We're going to do a calf stretch. You can do it like this. So you can just kind of modify on your feet instead of on your knees. All right, the rest of us are coming to hands and knees now. I like to use a blanket to pad my knees. This part of your knee under your kneecap is pretty vulnerable to too much pressure over time, and I've been teaching for 25 years, so I need to pad mine. So we're coming to all fours. You want your knees directly underneath your hips, your hands right underneath your shoulders. I like to tuck my toes under to stretch them, but you can keep them pointed if you prefer. We're gonna sink our belly down, pull your shoulders back, and then stretch your chest forward. Look up gently, but not so much that you're straining at your neck. So you just, find a place that feels good for you. Hug your belly in, especially the low belly, and think about widening your shoulder blades, rounding your spine. Tuck your chin to your chest, your whole back body stretches. And now at your own pace, just move back and forth between those two postures. See if you can find a sense of rhythm with your breath. So for me, I like to inhale as I'm moving. I exhale, hold, and just kind of sink in a little more. Inhale, I'm moving. Exhale, I'm sinking. And you can let yourself kind of start to be a little more creative if you like. So you might circle your hips or hinge forward and back. You can just move however feels good for you. Just loosening up our hips, our spine, and our shoulders. All right, we're gonna take the right foot straight back with your toes tucked under, and you're pressing back through your heel. Give your lower abdominal muscles a little belly tone so that your lower back isn't sagging down. And then you're gonna cross the right foot behind the left, press your hips to the right, lean your head to the left, and if it feels good and you wanna stretch a little more, you can reach your right hand kind of forward, and then you're gonna get a giant crescent for your right side body. Deep breath in, complete breath out. Good, we'll take the other side, so you're kneeling on right knee, taking the left foot back, your toes are tucked under, you're pressing through the heel. You wanna give your belly a little tone, and also squeeze your quadriceps so that the knee goes fully straight, and that'll just start to lengthen your hamstring. Then you're crossing left foot behind the right, your hips hinge to the left, and then again, if you want to add on, reaching that left arm forward and folding down a little bit. I think this feels great in my body. Big full deep breaths. Probably wouldn't want to do this if you had a big pregnant belly. All right, we're coming back to all fours. Tuck your toes under, walk your hands backward, press yourself up to standing. I'm just gonna move my blanket. All right, so now we're gonna come to Tadasana mountain pose. So you wanna look over your belly, look at your feet, and for this posture, this particular pose, not everyday standing, but here today, you want your leg bones to stack straight up and down. So most people normally will stand with feet kind of outer hip width, a little wider. Your toes might turn out. We're putting our feet a little closer and straight forward, so the second toes go straight forward, the big toes are a little bit pigeon-toed, and that just gives you a little bit of space back here in these SI joints that can get irritated for, many people, particularly women. Here, we're gonna breathe and reach your arms up, look up, and turn your palms outward and press your arms out away really powerfully. Your head looks down as your hands come down. They don't have to follow, but you're just looking up as your arms go up, and you're looking down as your arms come down. And this will warm up your neck a little bit and your shoulders. Let's do 1 or 2 more. Breathing in, reaching way up. Breathing out, pressing down. 1 more will feel good. Give your shoulders a good roll. And then move your head and neck, just however that feels good. Okay, we're taking standing crescents. We're gonna interlace the fingers and press your palms forward. Now, as soon as we do this, a lot of people will tend to push hips and belly forward. So you wanna keep your hips and your belly moving back, your feet lined up. With your elbows straight, you're gonna plug your shoulders back and then reach your arms overhead, but try not to arch forward. So this becomes a little bit of core tone. Take a good deep heart breath here. Keep the elbows squeezing straight if you can. And then just rock side to side to the amount and the degree that feels good for you. Staying plugged into your breath. Good, let your arms come down, roll out those shoulders again, and your head and your neck. Okay, we're gonna take what's called Bandhasana. So this is a squat, this is like a half squat pose. Sometimes this will get called skier's pose. Take your feet a little wider than hip distance apart. Second toe straight forward, so the big toe's tiny bit pigeon-toed. And then you're just gonna squat back. And you wanna keep your weight in your heels and your hips back, your knees stacked right over your ankles, or maybe just a little forward, but definitely not over your toes. So your weight is pitched back. Then bring your hands to your mid-lower thighs, but make sure you're not pushing down on your kneecaps. And then we're gonna work on a pelvic tilt. So you want to think about your sitting bones moving back, and then the top of your hip bones, they tilt a little forward. And we're just gonna take a couple breaths in this position. So you're practicing this kind of pre-hinge. Now, in yoga, we work with what's called bandhas, they're locks, and basically it is a tone of the pelvic floor, a little lift of the inner low belly side, waist, low back, and then there is a throat lock, which we use a little bit less, so I'm gonna skip talking about that right now. But pelvic floor tone is important. It's gonna help support your internal organs. It's also the root of the base, the floor of your core. So you're gonna root your tailbone down without tucking your pelvis under. So see if you can find that. And then it's just a sweet little belly hug. And hold that, but make sure that you're still breathing. Okay, from here, stand up nice and tall. Stretch your arms up overhead, turn your palms out. I am going to use a prop. I should have mentioned that earlier. I'm getting used to this filming thing. So you might want a yoga block or like a little footstool, or you could just use the edge of the chair. And some of you won't need it at all. You're going to take the block or the support out in front of you. We're coming back to Bandhasana. So again, sitting bones back, and the top of your hip bone tilts forward. Bring your hands to your support, and then begin to stretch your legs towards straight. Now, in my prenatal classes, I'm very conscious of forward folding and inversion. So anytime that your head is below your heart, we have increased blood volume at that time, and it can make you feel a little dizzy or lightheaded. So you might not want to fold. If it feels good, feel free. So you can keep your legs straight, or you can rebend your knees. Hinge, fold, let your head hang down. Now we do want to try to keep the low back pretty flat. If it over rounds, then this can strain the discs, nerves, and some of the tissues in the low back. So you really want to focus on trying to keep your low back long in your forward folds. Take another breath here. And then we're going to come back to hands and knees. Just going to move my props a little bit here. I'm going to grab my blanket again. And we're coming into puppy pose. So puppy pose is a gentler version of downward dog as far as the inversion goes. It is a little bit of an awkward pose because you're working equally on strength and stretch. One is not overriding the other. So you'll feel some isometric contractions. So I'm on my fingertips if I can be, so my wrists are nice and straight.
Fine to put your hands flat if you prefer. You're gonna think about lifting your armpits up and then stretching your hips back. And if it feels good for you, your head can come down to the ground. Take a nice deep breath in there, full breath in, complete breath out. Then walk your hands off to the right and breathe in to stretch your right side body. And then walk your hands to the other side, pressing your hip back and breathing into your side lung and side ribs. And then back to the center, and we're taking child's pose. So if you're in prenatal yoga with me, we do 3 different versions for different reasons. So beginning, take your knees wide apart, your toes together, your hands can support you. So this is a version of a squat. It's like a kneeling squat. It helps open the pelvis, relax the internal organs. This one's also good for heartburn. So as we open the hips and pelvis, the organs drop down, it takes pressure off your stomach. You might use this if you're laboring though as well. So taking a couple breaths here. The more classic version is that we cross our arms and let our head rest down. And then this position is called knee chest pose, and this is a childbirth preparation pose. So this inversion where your hips are up, your heart and head are down, the belly is forward, and the idea is that the baby's weight is heaviest in the back, so their back can kind of roll to your belly, that ideal delivery position. So just taking a couple of breaths in whichever child's pose that you chose. And then we're gonna come back up to standing. And we're gonna go ahead and head to the wall. You can use a door frame, you can use a chair. I live in an old house, so I don't have a lot of wall space, so just be creative. Think about where you got just simply some room to put your hand on and hold on. So we're gonna begin with this chest shoulder stretch where you wanna try to get yourself standing straight up and down. People have a tendency to kind of lean in, and if you're leaning in, you won't feel the full stretch. So you need to be stacked. You're gonna put your fingers together at shoulder height, and then you just push. And you're really just creating traction for your arm, all the way from your sternum through your wrist. Some people might feel a stretch in your fingers. So you're just pushing, just making your arm as straight as you can, pushing out through the fingers and back through your heart away from the wall rather. And then for part 2, you're gonna open your hand, like your fingers like the rays of the sun, and then you spin your hand backward just a little bit. And here we wanna focus on getting this shoulder back and down. So try not to it'll wanna hike up and roll forward, so you're gonna do the opposite. Shoulder goes back and down. Keep your belly muscles gently toned. You can put your hand there to remind yourself, and then turn. So again, people will wanna push. You're gonna hug back into your core, and just really focusing just right there in the chest and shoulder. I'm gonna take one more breath here. Good, relax that down and give your shoulder a good roll. And then we'll take the other side. So you're just putting, again, your hand at shoulder height, fingers pressed together. I'm gonna press the shoulder back, make the arm fully straight, and then just push. You're pushing your hand into the wall and then your chest away from the wall. And then spread your fingers out, spin your hand backward a little bit, plug the shoulder back and down and turn open. Nice big opening across your heart, chest, shoulders, keeping a little belly tone. Good, and relax and roll out your shoulder. All right, this next one seems very simple, but to do it well is a little bit intricate, and you have to really pay attention to your alignment. And the benefit is that we're gonna work deep into the core, and that, remember that you have tiny little muscles. You have between each single vertebrae, like 3 muscles that tie one to the next, and then they cross 3, 5, 7, all the way up. So really working on stability here. It's gonna feel like an isometric posture, which means there's not much physical movement, but there's tone, balanced tone. So I'm gonna stand on the left foot to start, and you're just lifting your right foot up off the wall. So part 1 is that you're using the wall to support yourself. Part 2, see if you can take your hands away and hold that for a good amount of time. And then if you're still feeling well balanced, so bring your hands to your hips, and you wanna feel them. These crescent-shaped hip bones are your ilium. You make sure they're even from right to left, forward to back, and that you have not let yourself drop into too much of what's called an anterior pelvic tilt. So you're going to tone the low belly and get your hips nice and square. And then if you want to challenge yourself more, you bend this knee deeper, and you're going to try to bring your legs to touch, inner thighs to touch, without letting the pelvis tilt. Stay with your breath. So you should feel like your belly muscles working. Probably you'll feel your inner thigh, you'll feel your hamstring, you might feel your glute a little bit. Good, and then release and just kind of shake that out. And then we'll do the other side. So you're staying on right foot, you're coming to Stork Pose to find your balance. Maybe hands come off the wall, maybe one can come off the wall. Then hands to hips. Try to feel the balance of your pelvis and realign it, right, left, front, back, belly tone, and then maybe start to work the legs towards each other. It's a lot harder than it seems like it should be. So really want to try to keep everything nice and balanced there, working deep inside your body. Good, release. And since we're here at the wall, we'll take wall puppy. So your arms reach up, you can walk your hips back a little bit, stretch your spine long. You could put your hands lower at hip height, step back, wall dog, nice long spine stretch. Again, we're looking for a little concave curve in the lower back. So if you are rounded, bend your knees, move your sitting bones up and let your pelvis tilt, and then re-extend your legs towards straight. Take a nice deep breath there. Good, standing up, we're taking Tadasana, or sometimes this is called pyramid pose. So I'm having my left foot forward, my right foot back, and again, hands on hips. And in this posture, for most people, the hips will kind of start to go diagonal. So again, you're gonna try to keep the hips square. If that's hard, you just step in a little closer. You step the back foot in a little closer. My feet are hip distance width apart. Lift up through your spine, curl your shoulders back, engage your abdominal muscles just a little bit and start to lean forward. And you, again, trying to move without letting your hips do this thing. So you're gonna keep the front hip pulling back and the back hip wrapping forward. I'm pretty flexible this way and I'm nearing the wall. So I'm just gonna step back a little bit more. And look, I could touch the ground, but then my hips shift in my back round. So I'm really working on the alignment, hips square, spine long. Good deep breath. Let's stand up, take the other side, your right foot forward, your left foot back. You're squaring your hips. Lifting up through the chest, the shoulders gently pull back, the belly slightly engaged, and then you hinge and forward fold. Full deep breaths. Good, and then come standing up tall. All right, as long as your balance is good, we're gonna take the standing hip stretch. I'll face the wall again in a moment, but I just wanna give you a good view. You're gonna cross your ankle over the opposite knee, and I'm keeping this ankle flat. I don't want the foot to turn upward like this. That can strain your outer knee. So I'm making sure that pinky toe side of the foot stays down, hands on the wall, and then we squat. And again, you're trying to keep your spine long and neutral. Mine might be a little overarched. I tend to be overarchy. So you can put your hand back there and just check your curve. Squatting and holding, making sure to keep the breath moving well. Good. Standing up and taking the other side, ankle over knee, squatting down. Standing back up. We're going to stretch our quadricep. So standing on the left foot, you're coming to Stork Pose, and then this time you're going to reach down for your ankle. You could grab your pant leg, you could use a strap, and then just going to point the knee down. Now again, for a lot of people, when the knee starts to go back, they tilt the pelvis, and then you really lose a significant amount of the quad and psoas stretch up here in the groin. So I'm going to try to keep the knee forward, the belly toned, and then press the knee down as much as you can without collapsing in the lower back. And if you want to work on your balance, you could stretch the opposite arm up to the sky. Smooth, deep breaths. Release, change sides, stay on the right foot, bring the left foot up and back behind you. Check your low back curve. If you're very archy, you're gonna pop the knee forward, hug your belly back, root your tailbone down. That's your Mula Bandha, tailbone anchoring down. Keep the belly strong, that's Uddiyana Bandha. The knee reaches towards the floor. And only if it feels great, stretch your opposite arm up. Stay connected to the rhythm of your breath. Good, release, and then we'll neutralize. So you could pick wall puppy, wall dog, and then wall dolphin's another nice one too. So we interlace the fingers, unhook your pinkies, forearms to the wall. Your hips can stretch back. This is a nice opener for chest and shoulders. If you have mid, upper back tension, this is a good one. Good, and stand tall. Ironically, if you have tension up here, a lot of times the chest, shoulder stretches are actually the thing you need. So when these muscles are tight, we do so much typing and driving, this gets tight, these get a little bit weak, and these muscles are actually trying to pull you back to neutral. So if you feel tension back here, making sure that your chest and shoulders are open might be helpful for you. All right, we're gonna come back to our mats away from the wall. And this is another place you might want a block or a little step stool if the floor feels hard for you to reach. And we're gonna take what we call goddess squat. So you're gonna turn your toes outward and come into a squat. Your feet are just turned out to what's comfortable for you. You don't have to be thinking about ballet and forcing them, but you wanna make sure that your knees, ankles, and toes are lined up so that my knees aren't collapsing in or overextending out of the pinky toe. So just squatting down. We're gonna do a little bit of breath with movement for our circulation now. So you're gonna breathe in, reach up, and then exhale, let your hands come down through the middle, hands to your thighs, let yourself round forward. Inhale, roll up, stretch your arms out like wings, reach up with your inhale, and exhale, release down with your exhale. We'll do one more. And then bring your hands to the block, high, low, or you can bring them to the floor. Parallel your feet. Now again, when we fold in forward folds in yoga, we want to make sure a significant amount of the fold is happening in your hip, not in your lower back. So this should round a little, it should stretch a little. We just don't want to overdo it there. So we got to hinge from the hips. So think about with your knees bent, sitting bones lifting, low back pulling forward. Begin to stretch your legs straight, but pull your spine forward. And if your legs can't go all the way straight, that's okay. That doesn't mean that you're overly stiff. It's actually hyper flexible to be able to touch the floor with the straight back and straight legs. If it feels good for you, let yourself fold in, let your head relax, breathe deep. Bending knees, hands to your thighs, inhale, come up standing tall. All right, side angle pose. This is a very popular yoga pose, and I feel like a lot of people are actually straining their lower back in this pose. So I'm gonna turn away from you just to point out some parts of this posture. Turn your left toes outward and turn your right toes inward. And then bend your left knee and you bring your left elbow to your left thigh and your right hand to your right hip. So real quick, it looks like this. Now, we want to make sure that we keep the hips lined up with your ankles, not pushing forward to the toes. Because when you do that, it can jam your lower back. So you're going to try to keep your hips, knees, ankles lined up. Then take your top arm straight to the ceiling and just wiggle your fingers, roll your wrist, move your elbow, roll your shoulder. And then you can keep the arm straight to the ceiling if that feels better for you, or stretch your arm alongside your ear. Take a nice deep breath there, not stretching your side waist right between your hip and your rib. And then inhale, rise up tall, and we'll take the other side. So I'm just turning so you can get a different view. So now right foot's turning out, left toes are turning in a little bit, so this back leg has a little bit of inner rotation. Bend your knee, knee right over ankle, elbow above the knee, and stretch your left arm up overhead. Wiggle fingers, roll your wrist, elbow, shoulder, and then again, we'll make sure that we're not letting the hips push forward. A lot of times that's kind of this energy of the solar plexus is pushing. So let yourself be centered. And then if it feels good for you, take your arm alongside your ear. You might look up at your hand, breathe and stretch that side waist. Good, inhale, stand tall. We're gonna come back to the goddess squat. So feet are a comfortable distance apart, turned out comfortably for you, and squatting down. And then just let yourself slide a little bit side to side. And you can stay upright and work this way, or if it would feel good for you, you can bring your hands down, block or floor, and then maybe go a little deeper. So now we're working into the inner thighs. I just want to be nice and gentle. So we're in this Taurus class. Taurus is slow and steady, it's sweet, nurturing, likes to take her time. And then if it feels good for you, you might even come into a deep one. I would not encourage this maybe for prenatal, but if you're very flexible and comfortable and it feels good, go ahead. Stay with your breath. You know, even though this is not a super difficult pose, it definitely requires some strength and flexibility, so you might tend to hold your breath here or over effort. And as I'm working these deeper squats, I want to keep the bent knee heel. Try to keep that down. It's hard to do that for a lot of people, but try to keep that down, which helps keep better balance in the posture. Good, we're coming back to parallel feet, straight legs, long spine, fold, down and in. Good, full deep breath there. All right, we're getting ready to wind down here. We're gonna come down to, this is called Vajrasana, diamond pose. And your hips are back on your heels, your knees forward. If this bothers your knees at all, you can sit. And if you're sitting, I'm gonna encourage you to sit on a blanket. You could also do Vajrasana with a blanket underneath your hips, heels. That actually feels nice. I'm gonna keep that one there for myself today. All right, we're just gonna take a quiet centering moment after all the movement that we've done so far. Connecting into your breath. You might feel that your breath is a little elevated, that your heartbeat has pumped up a little bit. Just giving yourself time to let that all slow back down now. Noticing where you're breathing, chest or belly, and try to let your breath come back into your belly. And then lean to one side. I'm leaning to my left hand down, right arm up and over. And we'll take a nice big side stretch here. Let your head hang down over your shoulder if that feels okay, to get a little bit of a neck stretch. And then come up and just take a very gentle twist in the same direction. Just turning your head, curling your shoulder, your back, shoulder back. And then lean to the other side. For me, right hand is down, left arm is up. Big deep breath. Coming up, it's a gentle twist. Curl your shoulder back, turn your head. And then coming back to center, just move your head however feels best for you. All right, we're gonna take a little finishing time. So I'm gonna stay seated for seated meditation, which you're welcome to do. If you are not pregnant, you can lay down on your back for Shavasana. If you are pregnant, I want to show you how we rest in prenatal classes. So you'll be on your left side, and you'll probably want a little bit of height for your head, so pillow or blanket. One of the more challenging things of being pregnant that stretching doesn't really help so much is this deep hip socket pain from sleeping on your side. So if you're having that, you might experiment with putting a blanket underneath your ribs, and then your hip sinks down. So it just helps to create a little more balance in your hips when you're sleeping. When our hips are widening through pregnancy and you lay down your side, the top one gets hiked way up, so it's got a deep curve here and very flat on the bottom. So this will just help even that out where you've got a little more even space on both sides of hips and ribs. And then you could put blankets or pillows between your feet and your knees if you like, and bring your hand to your belly. So I'm gonna return to sitting, and you can just make yourself comfortable. Let your eyes close if they're not already. And again, feel into your body, into your breath. Allow yourself to also acknowledge your energy body. We can be really practical about energy body. So remember that you are made up of a collection of cells, that there is electric energy running from your brain to your body that is affected by what's happening in your environment. It's affected by what's happening in your brain and your thoughts and your emotional field and your heart. So just taking a moment to notice how you're feeling and to meet yourself with curiosity and compassion and non-judgment. How are you today? Nothing to fix, nothing to change, nothing other to be than what you are at this very moment, knowing that we all have a natural desire to grow, to change, to feel better. Sometimes that gets stunted, so I want to acknowledge that that can happen. Sometimes we just need to be affirmed in how we are. It's okay that we're struggling. It's okay, that we're scared at this time. It's okay that we're nervous about uncertain futures. Just giving yourself a moment to be okay, right where you are. And then to allow yourself to open up to inner self-discovery. To remember the qualities that you hold inside that can help you move through these challenging times, that can help you more fully enjoy the good times. So allowing yourself to think about your unique inner qualities that you are grateful that you have inside. And maybe inviting them to show up a little more fully in your life. So for me, I think of curiosity as one of my great qualities. So instead of turning away from the things that I feel nervous about, I invite myself to just dig in a little deeper, look a little closer. The world is full of so many surprises if we're open to them. Maybe yours is courage or determination or humor. See if you can use your thoughts on your inner positive qualities as a way to start to shift your energy so you can more fully show up for whatever is ahead of you in this day. And then let's just take another minute to think about just clearing out. So we think about our, the analogy you'll hear me say all the time is, right, if we have an electronics that's acting up, the first thing we do is turn it off, let it reset. So as much as you can, think about holding some clear space where your thoughts really slow down. Maybe they don't go away, but you can pick like one. You can focus on your breath. Maybe you can imagine the color white, maybe a blue sky. Maybe you think about just a feeling in your body. Letting your hips relax down, your muscles to relax a little more. And feel the natural extension of your spine up. You might think of a potted plant, right? That it needs that solid ground to root into, and because of that rooting, it has that natural rise and blossoming. Perhaps taking a moment to think of something that you're grateful for. Affirm the things
that you love. Perhaps set an intention or offer a prayer. And I'll finish this practice with an Om. Hands together in front of the heart. Breathing out through the nose. And back in. Full breath in. Audible exhale out. Bow your head to heart. The light of my heart honors the light in your heart. Namaste. I want to let you know that these classes for the time being have been being offered for free on YouTube, and we have opened up some portals for donations. So this is going to be a hard time for all the small businesses. If you love one, please support them. To offer donation in return for this class or just to simply support the studio, please visit Shine Yoga, so www.shineyoga.com, and I hope you have a beautiful day. I'm moving on to a more active practice next, which is Aries practice. That's going to be kind of a quick power practice, and then I'm going to finish that with my Pisces practice, which will be a reclined leg and hip release. So if you feel like practicing more, those are the next two in this little series. Take care, everyone.